friends. This is another episode of the program Empire of Lies, in which we discuss manipulation and disinformation in the Russian media. Europe as an enemy and as an excuse. What Solovyov really says. Vladimir Solovyov's evening broadcast is more than just a talk show. It's a public monologue of the state, where Russia talks to itself, and Europe becomes a convenient mirror, reflecting all of Russia's fears, grievances, and desires. At first glance, it's just another set of threats, the usual rhetoric about the decaying West and unprincipled Americans. But if you put aside the usual hysteria, it becomes clear. These speeches are no longer defensive, but rather a strategy of justification and preparation for a long confrontation. 1. The New World. Through Solovyov's eyes, the main topic of the broadcast is the approaching Great European War. Solovyov quotes Lavrov. The West is supposedly preparing for a clash, while the US is inciting China to turn away from Russia. This narrative is simple. The world is divided into clans. Morality has disappeared, and only force decides. This is how the new Russian version of realism is constructed. No one is right, everyone is hypocritical, which means anything goes. Russia no longer portrays itself as a peacemaker or the deceived party. Now it says bluntly, Europe wants war, and if it starts, they are to blame. This isn't just an accusation, it's an attempt to shirk responsibility, to create a moral vacuum where any action by Moscow will be a response, not aggression. 2. Europe as a space of guilt and dependence. The narrative is constructed according to the template of the old Soviet narrative, but with a new emotional energy. Poland is a colony pumped up by American troops. Germany is a deindustrialized wasteland. Hungary and Turkey are the last sane ones. All these fragments come together to form a single mosaic thesis. Europe is bereft of will, governed through fear and debt. When Solovyov speaks of Belgium as a NATO kidney or of Warsaw as an occupied zone, he's not making a sarcastic observation, but a political statement. Europe is not a subject, and if it's not a subject, then treaties with it are not binding. This is the key to the Kremlin's logic. The denial of European subjectivity justifies everything, from annexations to shelling. After all, in a world where no one is free, the concepts of crime and law don't exist. Is this really the Belgian army? On parade, yes, a whole bunch of decorated faces. Decorated? Besides, judging by everything, he's the only one wearing all the decorations. Excellent in combat, drill and political training. Cadets. Who are these people? Cadets. And this Belgium, it's not so much the brains or the heart, it's NATO's kidneys. A spare NATO kidney, which, if anything, wouldn't be a pity, could be replaced with the Netherlands or Germany. So the depleted NATO headquarters will move out into the world and back across the pond in case of trouble in Europe. Why should they really feel sorry for Belgium? Especially since Belgium is the US's tactical nuclear weapon. And even hypothetically, if they were given the go-ahead to use them from Belgium, those F-35s would fly for a very long time, carrying those tactical bombs and so on. 3. Ukraine as a pretext for global revisionism. One thought runs through the entire broadcast: Ukraine as a geopolitical trap for the West. Lavrov warns of a major war. Solovyov repeats, the Russians won't wait for Europe to prepare. Behind these phrases lies the idea of a preemptive strike, framed as inevitability. This isn't improvisation. It's rhetorical preparation for any further steps Russia might take, where any escalation is presented as forced, as a reaction to European aggression. And when the phrase "destroy Ukraine now, before Europe is ready" is heard in the studio, it's not just a threat. It's a signal to society. Morality has been abolished. Only a survival strategy remains. 4. Europe through the eyes of Moscow television, a trophy, not a partner. In the final minutes of the broadcast, Solovyov returns to the topic of Europe, but in a historical context. The Germans are Nazis again, the French are traitors, the Poles are Stalin's ungrateful children. This sequence is constructed like a reverse chronicle of revenge. Europe is portrayed as Russia's eternal enemy, always attacking, but always losing. "We will come to Paris again," he says at the end. "History doesn't teach, it punishes." This isn't a random outburst of anger, it's a new national mythology. Europe is needed here not as a partner or a rival, but as an excuse, a justification for poverty, repression, militarization, isolation, all of which have become the norm. After all, if the West is preparing for war, then any internal violence can be called defending the motherland. 5. The goal of this rhetoric is not to intimidate, but to paralyze. Everything Solovyov says sounds like a show of force, but in reality, it's a rhetoric of fear disguised as confidence. It's not intended to convince Europe to capitulate. Its goal is to convince Russia itself that there is no way out, that enemies are everywhere, and everything has already been decided. For Europe, this rhetoric is important not as a threat, but as a symptom. Russia is finally abandoning diplomatic language. It is building its future on the rejection of European civilization as a model. You've been on the Empire of Lies program. See you soon.